one of my goals has always been to bring science and the paranormal together. Paranormal is just science undiscovered or misunderstood.
Every time I keep asking how good can it get, this prompts the participatory universe to provide us with answers that we genuinely do want to live the answer to.
Hello, my name is Christopher Anatra. You know me as the Quantum Businessman.
And I say, you know what? I don't need to know where I'm headed. I thought I knew where I was headed before, and I didn't end up there. So why worry about where I'm headed? Why not just accept this now moment, trust that whatever guided me here with you guys that I feel is divine is going to continue to guide me.
The content you are about to watch is meant for thought and consideration. Please be respectful of each other and opinions shared. This is a safe place to express thoughts, ideas, and information. Please note that no copyright infringement is intended with regards to inclusion of short excerpts of material that are included in accordance with fair use under Section 107 of the Copyright Act. IMEC, or International Mandela Effect Conference, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization designed to support ongoing Mandela Effect research. To learn more about IMEC, please go to imec.world.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the International Mandela Effect Conference 2024 Open Tables Season 4, Episode 1, 80s Attack. Can you believe we made it this far, ladies and gentlemen? I am so very glad to be here with all of you guys, and I am also very glad to be here with my incredible team, which I'm going to bring on now, Miss Cynthia Sue Larson from realityshifters.com.
Happy New Year.
We've also got Happy New Year, Cynthia. We've also got Mr. Christopher Anatra of the you also know him as the Quantum Businessman. Happy New Year, Chris.
Happy New Year. I'm alive. Schrodinger's cat.
Schrodinger's cat is alive this year. That is
Yes.
a good thing.
Yeah.
And last but not least, of course, our good friend Shane Robinson, unbiased and on the fence. Glad to have you here, Shane.
Glad to be here. Happy
New
New
Year.
How do you guys?
So, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead, Chris.
How do you guys like our new intro?
Yeah, that's awesome. What you guys
Love
think
it.
about
That
the new
is
look?
awesome.
We have our wonderful producer Heather to thank for all of the wonderful work with the intro and the new look. And it's a fresh, new, wonderful look for our 4th season here on Open Tables. Wonderful.
That's right. Watch out, Joe Rogan.
We've got a new slide deck look. We've got a new intro, and I hope you guys enjoy the new outro we've got at the end. Also, we've totally refreshed this show for you guys, so we hope you enjoy it. We've got a lot to go through today, ladies and gentlemen. So, without any further ado, let us go through our show agenda. The Golden Mandy nominees are going to be announced momentarily, followed by a head of the class Mandela Effect. You might remember the head of the class if you were an 80s baby. Breakfast at Tiffany's apparently has a Mandela somewhere within it. We'll cover that. How about a segue? I'm pretty good at segues. Maybe we'll make a good segue into the next board member updates. And then we'll go through the sponsors, the mailbag, and the Q&A. Hopefully we'll keep this about 90 minutes, folks. That is our goal. We've tried for 4 years to hit that goal. We've hit it twice in 4 years. So we may make it again. We're looking forward to it. So starting off with the Golden Mandies, ladies and gentlemen, as you guys know, every year we give an award here to the person that has really done a lot to move the conversation forward, to bring the Mandela Effect out into the public more. And what we do is we ask the community to give us nominations. And this year we got a number of nominations. I want to first thank those that nominated us board members or IMEC itself. That was very, very kind and sweet of you guys. We sincerely appreciate it. Unfortunately, we are ineligible to be nominated as we are the ones putting it on. So unfortunately, the judges can't judge themselves. You know how it goes. So again, we appreciate that, guys. Thank you so very much. It does mean a lot to us to get those emails about how much you appreciate what we do. But We did have some more emails with nominees. We had Miss Eva Nye from Once Upon a Timeline. You guys might remember her from the Mandela Effect Conference 2020. Mr. John Kerwin of Wake Up or Else. He was in the last conference, as a matter of fact, gave an amazing talk. So did Mr. Roger Marsh. He's on the list. He's the author of
Truth Bubble.
Cynthia, help me with the name. Truth Bubbles. Thank you. I kept saying bubbles, but I couldn't think of the first word.
Yeah.
Truth Bubbles, an amazing book, by the way. Alicia Thompson of Third Eye Travel Agency. She also gave an incredible talk at the 2023 Mandela Effect Conference. And then we have Mr. Brian Stavely of Dose of Reality, who has been invited but has been unable to make it in person conferences. So Mr. Stavely, Alicia Thompson, Roger Marsh, John Kerwin, and Eva Nye are your 2023 Golden Mandy nominees. In order to vote for the Golden Mandy, Cynthia, how would they go about doing this?
We should have a link provided, hopefully.
Yep, there's a link in the chat. And
good. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Nice. So that link takes you to vote, and anybody who can vote on it, YouTube, you need to get to our YouTube community page for the International Mandela Effect Conference channel. Once you're there, it's just it's the thing on top, and you just select which vote you'd like to make. I think it allows you to change your vote, so I haven't messed around with it that much. But hopefully make one vote, keep it, and you'll be able to see the results as the vote is running, which is kind of cool.
Right. And we did have to narrow it down to 5, so there were other nominees.
Yep.
We went with the top 5 that were nominated most.
Suggested.
Yeah.
Right.
So these are finalists in a way. We are very proud of these 5 nominees. We're very, very impressed with the work that they've done, very grateful for their contributions.
Absolutely. So make sure you go and cast your vote. This is the year of the vote, ladies and gentlemen, 2024, in a numerous number of ways, right? Yeah, that was repetitive, a numerous number. Anyway, we've got voting going on here at the International Mandela Effect Conference. Do go vote for the Golden Mandy. All right, next up on the list, the 80s, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a lot of people sending us stuff from the 80s lately. It's like the 80s is under attack by the Mandela Effect, if I didn't know any better, right? Thus the name 80s Attack of the Show. First up, you guys might remember a show called Head of the Class. Now, I didn't originally remember this show until I went back and watched this episode. I guess the teacher was in WKRP in Cincinnati, wasn't he? Was what he was in?
I'm not that familiar with
I
the
think
show.
Mike Tyson dated or married one of them girls.
Really?
Really? Interesting.
Or maybe not.
Anyway, in season 2, episode 21, they're given a project, and they're asked to do a newscast. Before we get into what the project was, Heather, can you go ahead and run that video for us, please?
In South Africa today, in preparation for the opening ceremonies of the Summer Olympics at Nelson Mandela Memorial Stadium. The combined Israeli-Palestinian team looks impressive in track and field, with a strong challenge from the all-Irish team.
All right, go ahead. Excellent. So we heard Nelson Mandela Memorial Stadium, which was awesome considering this was back in the 80s. I do want to point out real quick, the project they were doing was a newscast from the future. So go ahead, team. What do you guys think of this, Cynthia?
Well, the timing is so interesting because this episode came out May 4th, 1988. And that would have been, I mean, that's so interesting because it seems like for people that remember that Nelson Mandela died, it was around that time. Maybe, I don't know exactly where. This is what happens when you remember someone died. I sure don't remember it to the month and the day. But I think this is something that Eileen Kolst wrote about in the book, Mandela Effect, Friend or Foe, right, Shane? So.
Right, yeah.
And I don't know if she had a date on it, but I think that's extremely interesting considering the show, this Head of the Class episode came out in 1988. Clearly, there's something going on here. And it seems like sometimes when we get this kind of what you might call residue, even though in this case, like you said, it was a newscast from the future, it's interesting because clearly it's bringing our attention front and center to this whole idea that Nelson Mandela has passed away. And, according to our current timeline, that had not yet happened at that point.
Chris?
So what was the date of this episode again, Cynthia?
May 4th, 1988.
Oh, wow.
And this was submitted to us by Autumn. I want to give a shout out for Autumn in Riverview, Michigan. Thank you so much. And I think it's when Autumn was sending it in, she said that the Wikipedia says the episode is from May 4th, 1988. And, clearly, she was rerounding. She found it really interesting because when she attempted to turn the subtitles on so she could take a screenshot, there weren't any. Remember, this is the 1980s show, so they didn't do the closed caption stuff. But anyway, it was a big one for her because she remembered thinking, wasn't Nelson Mandela already dead when she saw the show? And she had a specific memory of, that was the case. So I think for a lot of us that remember Nelson Mandela dying, like Eileen Colts writes about in Mandela Effect, Friend or Foe. And I think that was powerful, Eileen's story, because she went as a reporter to interview Nelson Mandela, right? So,
right.
Very
Shaz
interesting.
Corcoran says, "May the 4th be with you." Yeah, I didn't realize that one. That's a cool one. So it was May the 4th.
I was thinking it, but I wasn't going to say it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah, I could just add to that. So I have the Mandela Effect death story as well, because back in the late 80s, I was so proud of this 1987 Chevrolet IROC Camaro. It was red. I call it Arrest Me Red. And I was working, at a small little software company at the time, and I parked it in this Howard Johnson's lot, which is right off of Interstate 95 in New Haven. And I was meeting people. We were going to commute together. And I remember walking by the newsstands, because back then we didn't have the internet. We just had newspapers. And all the newspapers were about Nelson Mandela dying. There were riots, people holding up signs on the newspaper and so forth. And that became indelled in my memory, because when I got back later that day because we did this programming job that was about 45 minutes away. So we all drove together. On the way back, I couldn't find my car. My car was stolen. What? So that day became in my memory so much, because I remember going to the Howard Johnsons and blah, 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 and seeing all the different news reports about Nelson Mandela and the protests. And then my car was stolen. So it was one of those days that you can't forget. So
talk about a memory note.
Yeah, it got really
anchor memory.
In my memory. So
I wonder what day that was. I don't know if you have records of what day the car was stolen. That would be really interesting.
Yeah, that was that was in the late 80s. I don't know the exact date. And you know what they did? They found it in the town of Bridgeport, which was probably maybe an hour away, and all the tires were gone. So the person that stole it, basically, they just wanted the tires, because the tires are worth $700 or $800 a piece. So yeah, there it goes, up on wooden blocks. So yeah, it was quite a day. But anyway, I just want to say hi to Brian Stavely, who's in the chat.
Hey,
Brian.
Shout out Brian Stavely.
Nice, one of our nominees, and getting a lot of votes too, I must say. I think we have over 100 votes in. Oh. Yeah.
It says, thank you for the nomination, guys. Appreciate it. That's to the whole community, of course, because the community is the one that nominated you, not us.
You're voting. Yeah, we're just voting once each, too. So it's the 4 of us are not. But there are a lot of votes coming in for Brian. I saw that today.
I will tell you, when I went to do this, put this together for the head of the class, I was actually told some misinformation to begin with. I was told it was Saved by the Bell, which I loved Saved by the Bell. So I went to look for this episode.
Oh, sorry.
Not only could I not find the episode, it didn't even start till months after that episode aired. Same year, but it started in November of '88. So I thought we had a Mandela on our hands right there for a minute, till I got it clarified and found out it was head of the class. So.
That was my mistake. I'm just doing too many things this month. Sorry.
Hey, at least it's right in the newsletter. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, I did.
it's corrected in the newsletter.
Yeah, I've got it in my reality shifters this month also. So broke the
I was like, hey, I can't find this. Oh, my bad. Not to call you out, so I do apologize. But I thought it was quite funny. I'm looking oh my goodness, did we have a bigger one here than I realized? What's going on?
I don't know how I mix those two shows up, but
well, I get it. I totally get it. Head of the class is Saved by the Bell. They're both school shows. I get it.
Yeah.
Shout out to Michelle Nyakis in the chat. Haven't seen that name in quite a while. So fantastic to see you too. But we have another 80s. Apparently, do you remember Breakfast at Tiffany's?
The movie, yeah.
I think I remember the film line.
Yeah.
Yeah, that if you remember the song, you know what reference that was. Anyway, Breakfast at Tiffany's, apparently this was pointed out to us. The iconic black Givenchy sheath dress that Aubrey Hepburn wore is different than how some remember it. Did it have a bib-like front that was also bib-like in the back, or was it simple and straight? So, Cynthia, the female of the group, I'm assuming, would have a little more eye for something like this than myself. Was it bib-like, or was it simple and straight?
I think it's more, you can see the pictures that we got on the screen right now. That picture on the left, that's, I think if I'm not mistaken, that's a scene from Mad Men, right? So it's a scene from a show that's a flashback to the 1960s. And so this whole Mandela effect is saying that originally the dress was more stylized like that. And now it seems like it's showing up more like what you see in the center shot. So there's been a change to the styling of it, and for a designer dress, I have to be honest, and I'm not exactly sure which way it was. I sort of remember that it had that kind of a cutaway look, like you see in that far right frame here, and maybe now it's switched over, so it's only the kind of like a very simple. It's hard to even tell it's a designer dress that Audrey's wearing in the middle with her black gloves and her sunglasses and so forth. That iconic look.
So what is it now? So it used to look like the ones on the side, but now it looks like the one in the middle. Am I understanding that?
Yeah, this came in from Elise in New Jersey, and she clearly remembers that it was originally much more like you see in Mad Men, and that's why they copied it. Mad Men is known for taking these ideas and trying to make them exactly like they were. So if they were watching Breakfast at Tiffany's, you'd want the same dress. You wouldn't want it to be some weird version that looked too modern. And so the fact that that dress that you're seeing on that actress on the far left looks different now than what Audrey's wearing, that's kind of shocking to people who are really tuned into that fashion. Personally, I didn't track to that. So this one is not a Mandela effect for me. Like, I'm not really sure. I don't know.
Right.
I think if you go to the next slide, we've got more detail about this particular, with theories. Oh, this is interesting.
So I'm going to jump to the second part here. As you mentioned, the Mad Men episode entitled The Chrysanthemum and the Sword involves Japanese businessmen and controversy surrounding working with them. Roger, a World War II vet, objecting as they represent the enemy he fought, and the younger partner saying it's time to get past it. So that's what the Mad Men episode was about. Then over here at the top, it says a possible meaning. In the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's, Mr. Yunioshi, Holly Golightly's upstairs neighbor, thank you. Upstairs neighbor is played by Mickey Rooney in unflattering Asian caricature proportions, a portrayal that has been criticized in recent years as a racist holdover from World War II. Perhaps the decoded meaning between these two ideas is the dress design Mandela effect may be move on from war, which, given our current climate of the world, seems quite fitting, in my opinion. Team?
Yeah, I thought that was a really good observation, because that was the strange part of that movie. If you watch Breakfast at Tiffany's, the part that just seems glaringly bizarre is why would they have Mickey Rooney play the role of a Japanese character? It just seems weird, with the funny teeth and the strange accent. It was just bizarre. So it does seem like there's something striking about that. And I had not noticed with the Mad Men episode that was from the Chrysanthemum and the Sword. This is extremely detailed observation here that Elise is sharing with us, and I think she's onto something. It does seem like there's that whole idea. I think we're thinking of it a lot because of the whole Oppenheimer thing with the movie that just came out, and the idea about the World War II and the Japanese connections. So it seems timely for us to now be just taking another look at the whole war situation and maybe revising it, just like we'd revise this dress. It is interesting.
I absolutely love this. And this reminds me of some of those early Mandela effects where it would just seem like, you know, the answer to the question that was brought out, it was all like contained, and I can tell this was so personal to, who did you say, Elise, that it, you know, she got the whole download as you know, the epiphany, if you will, with, you know, the change. And that's what I always invite people to do, you know, see what a Mandela effect really means to you and how it speaks to you. And this is the perfect example of how she did that.
Yeah, and I just want to say too, it's really good because when we observe these Mandela effects, we're being observant of the reality, and we're like, so there are these iconic figures, clothing that they wear. I'm still stuck on Richard Simmons not wearing a headband.
Right.
You know, I'm still like, what? I knew he wore a headband all the time. Or like Tom Cruise in Risky Business, I knew he had the sunglasses on.
Right.
I knew he wore a white shirt, not a pink purple shirt.
Yes.
So there are these type of things that you know for a fact, like you've seen it. So yeah, all these things. So with the person that brought this out, this stood out to her because this was a movie that she loved and followed and watched and knew what the costumes were that they wore and so forth. And that's what happens. Like, and the more for all of us that are observant of these Mandela effects, the more we observe, the more we're going to observe. Like they just literally start jumping out everywhere at us to show us like more truths about the reality, that it's not what we think it is.
I'd like to jump into the chat real quick over here. High Vibe Tribe says, I remember it being like the middle picture. And then Rose, second down, says, I seem to remember the more plain style dress.
Okay.
And that's the way it works. You know, it depends on what frequency or what bandwidth you are at, or where your consciousness was. There's no wrong answers.
Totally.
Brian Staley says, everyone is missing their most iconic accessories. It's ridiculous.
And I think that's to grab our attention. Wrong. Yeah, that's exactly it, right?
They all seem like that, attention grabbers, you know, but nothing serious, you know.
So it takes a lot of...
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it means it's easier for us to spot it, I think. Some people still deny it, weirdly. I don't understand that. To me, it's so obvious that everybody must be affected by something at this point, right?
Right.
But, and I think when it's something this obvious, then it's harder to deny it, but somehow some people still do. And maybe it's just going to take time for people to acknowledge this.
And some people never will. It's just way too far out there. And I mean, let's be honest. UFOs, we're asking people to accept that something is shining in the sky. Mandela Effect, we're asking people to accept the whole reality around them is not what they thought that it was. I mean, we're asking a lot. Let's be honest.
And Rose chimed in the chat that Simmons did wear a headband. Absolutely.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, he did.
That's another one where the outfits are a good way to find residue, because the outfits to look like Richard Simmons will have the headband.
The costumes,
Yeah, the costumes, yeah.
The costumes seem to keep the residue.
Yeah.
For some reason.
It'll be interesting if we see that change with Superman or Batman or something like that. I don't think that's happened yet, but who knows? It could at any moment.
I mean, don't put it past them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Next month, we're going to be reporting on superheroes. Thanks, Cynthia. Comic books galore. I'm kidding. Maybe.
Awesome.
But what else do we have on our slide deck now?
Can I, before we go on, can I just say something about UFOs?
Yes.
Absolutely. Chris.
We all love UFOs.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Yeah. So a lot of us always remember the term unidentified flying object, right?
Right.
Always. It was never UAP.
Right.
And so I was doing some research and I found that UAP was first used by the military in the 60s. And when I did my research initially, it was unidentified aerial phenomena. Now I just looked it up. Now it stands for unidentified anomalous phenomena. Like, wait, the reality just changed again, because like the whole I first heard the term UAP maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
What the heck is a UAP? So you look it up and it's like, oh, and then it's like, oh, it's always used. UFO is more, I don't know. That's the term I always knew it as. But now it's almost like DEA like the DEA, the Drug Enforcement
Right.
Agency. Right.
Agency. There was never that.
Administration.
Right. It's
Yeah,
administration.
not the administration. So we've got, like, I swear, no matter where you look, things change, and then they'll change again. Like the constellation, like a lot of, like when I first was talking to people about Mandela effects, you know, they would say, you know, what part of the galaxy are you from? Are you from the what was it, the Sagittarius arm, or are you from the Orion Spur? And I said, oh, I'm from the Sagittarius arm. I remember Carl Sagan spoke about that.
Yep.
Sagittarius arm doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
It's called the Carina Sagittarius arm. And I'm like, what? So, like, literally things are timelines bleeding, merging into each other. It's however you want to look at what's going on. It's to me, it's like constantly intensifying and changing, and it's hard to stay grounded in a single reality, because you wake up the next day and it's like, welcome to your new reality. So
Freela Minimal says outer edge of the Sagittarius arm. That's what I remember being taught.
Yeah.
Same here. Same.
Me too.
Brian said it was the Sagittarius.
Mm-hmm.
Preliminal. So weird. The Sagittarius arm changed name. That is weird.
Yeah, and it's Carina, Carina dash Sagittarius arm, and Carina is the constellation of the Southern Pleiades. So
Interesting.
it gets even more interesting. Like, so what? How do you decode that? Like, what's going on with that name? So yes,
well, that's an interesting constellation, because it's not a constellation, the Pleiades, and it's much more fixed. It's going to stay the same. The other constellations are moving and changing. That one is kind of rock solid, but it's not even a constellation.
Cluster.
Yeah, it's a cluster.
Right, it's a cluster of stars.
And it's locked in. It's not changing over thousands of years the way the others do. Very, very interesting.
And
yes,
it's had its fair share of reports of beings coming from, or reported themselves having come from Palladium or Palladian area.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
And a shout out for our Patreons too. Thank you for all your support. And we do have a lot more of a deep dive into some strange things that happened with so-called, interdimensional beings, sort of possible UFO stuff in our green room this month. So tune in. You'll love it.
Absolutely, guys. If you're a Patreon member, you've got a heck of a show headed your way shortly. That I can guarantee you. All right. Anything else before we move on? Take a little segue here to our next slide.
Yeah, I thought that was funny that you didn't know what the next. I don't know. Aliens is a good segue into anything, in my opinion. And I did want to let people know that
Aliens is a great segue, right?
The green room. We go to Miami on this month's green room. Just so you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Take a look at that.
Great discussion we have over there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just reading the chat real quick. Make sure there's nothing we're missing over here. Ooh,
check it out.
Segue. That was a pretty good segue to the segue.
Now I get it, Shane. Now I see what Shane was doing, what you were doing there. Segue.
So
that was too smooth.
Cynthia, do you know about this? Are you the one to receive this?
Yes. Yeah, this one, I found this myself. I was surprised to see it. It's supposedly a brooch that we're looking at, so a piece of jewelry. So what you're looking at, I know it looks like someone riding a Segway. Apparently, this is from 2,500 years ago. It's from a Celtic dig site where they're finding all kinds of jewelry and items. So it's an archaeological dig. And they found this brooch, which is a piece, like I said, a piece of jewelry. But if you look at that, and then you look at someone riding a Segway, it's kind of ridiculously similar. Now, people say this is just a piece of jewelry, and those two wheels are necessary for the pin mechanism to operate properly. Yeah, and you can say that all you want, but it's still, I mean, if you were to ask.
It's necessary for the handle on the Segway, too, to operate properly, too.
I know. I would then add, okay, why are the pins so large? Why do they have to look like wheels? What was because a jeweler can make it any way they want to make it. It doesn't need to look like that. So I would counter, like, really? You need to make jewelry to look like that? Maybe they're remote viewing it. Maybe they're seeing the future. Maybe it's a time traveler. I know a lot of people have a time travel theory about Mandela effects. And so if you've got that theory, that means, and this was a big one for Art Bell, of course. He talked to me about it, and he just loved the whole time travel concept for the Mandela effect. And maybe so. I mean, this is where you see stuff like this, and it's hard to argue that there isn't some kind of time travel thing going on. I don't know what to say. I mean, it's just, to me, it's not just jewelry. There's something's going on here.
You know,
Rose brings up a
even
good point.
in-
Remote viewing. Maybe somebody got the idea, you know.
Ooh. Right.
Yeah, I was going to
Go
say
ahead,
this reminds me, like, you can draw parallels with the Tartarians, like the Tartarian Empire and advanced technology they had. We talked about like the first electric car, like in one of our past episodes, that you could recharge. You know, they showed like a kid or something in the early 1900s recharging the electric car. There's now the first, I just looked it up. In 1888, the first electric car called the Flocken Electrowagon.
Wait, they called the what?
I swear to God, this just
Watch your language, sir. This is a family show.
Flocken, Flocken, Electrowagon, Elek with a K instead of electric, was introduced in 1888 in Germany.
No
And
way.
I'm like, so now we're going back in time where now, because it's like,
Because wait a minute, Chris, you just did a special deep dive into this not too long ago, like just a few months ago.
yeah, I thought we talked about it here.
But yeah, we did. But we didn't. But the date did not at that time go into this far back, did it?
No,
it didn't go to the 1800s.
No
it was
way.
1903 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was early 1900s for sure.
Okay.
19 something.
Yeah.
So this stuff keeps changing, and I'll just add one thing too. Like, this is going to sound like kind of way out there, but in the Bible, I forget what book it says there is nothing new under the sun.
Yes.
Right.
Nothing new. N-E-W. Can you talk about like words of double meanings, or is it K-N-E-W? So basically, could there have been past civilizations in the past that had technologies that were similar to us and that were always known or new, K-N-E-W? So there's nothing new under the sun. So I think the more that we look and we see, whatever it is that reminds us of that, or in Mexico, there was the astronaut Palenque as the name of the city. It looks like he's an astronaut, or he's observing something through a telescope, whatever it is. All these different things show us.
Yeah, he's the one curled up and looks like a spaceship taking off.
Yes.
Yes.
So all these things show us that we've had all these things before. Just because they might be new to us, like we know of them now, K-N-O-W, it doesn't mean that they weren't known before. So just things for people to like start to like understand and maybe piece together.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, it's that whole thing, like even the Zapruder film now being in color and now having footage.
You can hear the gunshots.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Got added.
Yeah.
That's totally
it's
new.
like-
That's new.
It's like the tech is moving backwards in
It
time.
is.
And
Yep.
it's like almost like somehow the technology or the inventions were sent back earlier or something.
It seems to be bleeding backwards. But
Because
like
now
you
we
said,
have
it's almost
footage and stuff,
like it's
cameras
being
from the
sent back.
1800s that we never had before.
Right.
Yeah. Cameras from the 1800s. They take remarkable pictures.
Yeah,
Like,
there's
so
like
sharp.
Yeah, there's like giants walking amongst people and stuff. Have you seen any of them clips? Like,
You do, but you don't think if it's AI driven. So you've got like that whole part of it too. Like, is it real? Is it artificial intelligence?
Right.
So you gotta have to use discernment, right? But yeah, what's
pretty
real?
wild. Yeah.
There's a channel on, I'm sure it's TikTok. I've been catching it on the YouTube Shorts that says pictures you've never seen before in history. And there's up to like part 70 some odd. And it's like picture from 1880, some picture from 1902. And some of these, I'm like, no way. There's no way. And like you, I question how much of this is just AI generation to get clicks.
Right.
Right now, Rose is
else we have to
saying
be
the Merlin
really-
effect, tech moving backwards in time. Is that a thing? Did you name that? That's a cool name, the Merlin effect.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is it real or Memorex?
It's funny.
And
funny,
yes,
I
Rose
heard
also
another one the
brings
other
up
day.
the ancient statues of India and people riding the bicycle. Have you seen this, Shane?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Cynthia and Chris are shaking their heads. You've seen these?
Yeah, the bicycle. Yeah.
So apparently there's designs of the bicycle long before the bicycle was ever designed, and people writing on it, these carvings, things like that. Of course, it's been argued, no, it was this, it was that, it was something else. It wasn't what it clearly appears to be. You don't believe your lying eyes, remember.
And they're holding a cell phone.
But they're finding these. Well, I don't know about that, right? Some of them are, right? But yeah, in like ancient India, they're finding these bicycles long before the bicycle was ever invented. So, again, small but tech bleeding backwards in time.
Yeah, and could it be the opposite? Could, if time travel exists, and you guys that watch me know that I believe that it is it also possible that if time travel exists, can you go back in time to an ancient advanced civilization and then bring their ideas back to us? So there's people, riding around on segways, 50,000 years ago in Atlantis, and then you bring that back into this timeline. And bring that technology to here. So
totally, even if it wasn't a physical thing, I mean, consciousness wise, they say you can like tap into the energy of Van Gogh to for inspiration. So I can totally imagine someone sort of remote viewing some of this tech that we, like you were saying, we did know it at one time, and it's kind of lost to our, whatever happened made us forget it, and now we're remembering it again in a way just by tapping in consciously, or even physically traveling back, like you're saying,
Anyone else? See, I remember Lone Eagle did a whole bunch of tech before its time. Then we've got things before and outside of the Mandela Effect called OOP-arts. Out of place artifacts. These are things that are in the wrong time. You've got a ring, Swiss watch ring that was found in a Chinese tomb that had been sealed for something like 400 years or 4,000 years, give or take a zero, right? But in incredibly long amount of time where there's no way that ring should have been able to be in there. How did it get into that tomb, right? Different things like that across time where we see these OOP-arts, these artifacts that are out of place, or tech that is bled back in time, things in time frames they shouldn't be. So it's funny to see the Mandela Effect now being kind of an answer possibly to the OOP-arts phenomenon, if you will. And maybe not an answer, but another link in the chain. Cynthia, do you follow what I'm saying? I know you're from that.
Yeah, totally looks like it ties in somehow, because anytime you're looking at Mandela effects, you're looking at the possible, it's also called the quantum effect for a good reason, because that's where you can totally have a future decision affecting a past event or a current event. You get into all the closed time-like curve ideas, and suddenly you're wide open to everything from the remote viewing to time travel connections. And I've had some of that in my own life where my future self took something from me when I was 16. So I know what it feels like to have that happen. Very strange and very meaningful. So it's interesting. I'll just leave it at that.
Can we go to the
chat? If I saw
chat,
myself come rummaging through my drawers, I'd be kind of flipped out too, not gonna lie. That's something I wouldn't forget easy.
Yeah.
What's that, Shane? I do apologize.
Rudolph says it's Ecclesiastes 1:9. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. I thought it was Solomon. I couldn't remember which. Yeah, Ecclesiastes. Nope. That sounds
apparently
right.
Ecclesiastes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Oh, and I just did some more research on the actual first kind of wasn't that it was an electric carriage in the 1830s. And basically it could go 1.5 miles at 4 miles per hour. It could tow 6 tons on a battery, but the battery wasn't rechargeable. And people in the railroads saw it as a threat to their livelihood. So all these railroad workers destroyed the vehicle. It was made by a guy named Davidson. They call it Davidson's devil machine.
Oh, wow.
But it was a battery, but it was non-rechargeable. So you go 1.5 miles and you're done. So that one didn't work out.
Good idea gone bad. That's what you call that.
6 tons a mile and a half. That might be worth,
I know, 6 tons. I know.
You got like something off a train that you need to move a mile.
They can barely make a half ton go 8 miles today. He goes, what, 40
anyway.
miles a charge, right? Or 140, something like that?
I don't know.
He got a whole lot better, let's say that.
Depends
Oh,
on the
by the
weather.
way, the battery weighs 6 tons.
But we've had a very, very interesting month, ladies and gentlemen. We are up to our updates portion of the show, our board member updates. So, Cynthia, go ahead and fill us in. What's going on in the reality shifters world?
Well, I've got an event coming up this coming Sunday. I'll be joining with Paula Harris, and she's the woman who co-authored a book with Jacques Vallée recently called Trinity, and it's all about what happened before there was Roswell. Yeah, before that, there was another incident at another nuclear testing facility, the Trinity area. And so she wrote about that. But what we'll be doing this Sunday is talking about Schumann resonance. What's going on with the crazy readings that we're getting, especially just in the last week or two? It's going nuts. And, what are the effects? Where is this phenomenon going and heading to? Why is it happening? How does it affect us? All that good information. And so I'll be joining with Jeff Makala, Paula Harris, and the sign up for that is starworksusa.com. And also, just another plug for another event, I'll be in Crestone, Colorado in May. And the same three of us, Jeff Makala, Paula, and myself, will be talking about unity consciousness and where things are going. It was really from the whole idea of now the UFO, UAP phenomenon is pretty well known. Consciousness is key. Our awareness of who we are matters. And so, how do we bring this together with a positive vision for the future, not the kind of crummy, eat bugs and own nothing kind of a philosophy, but coming up with something better than that. Then my other big news, besides, I do a monthly newsletter every month, and this thing is 20 pages long. I print it, but it's too much to go into it. Every month I've got all the latest news from around the world with different Mandela effects and reality shifts, like I've been publishing for 25 years. And I've got the draft of my new book, which some of you guys are looking at. Oh, yeah. It'll be out. Yes, you guys have it first. Jerry, yours is, I swear, it's on the way. I think Tennessee froze over.
Yep.
We did.
These are review copies if people are interested in getting it. I'm still editing it, so it's going to some professional proof editing folks and a little bit of revision happening on the inside with design and layout. But it will come out this year. This is the year. So,
to be fair, I have read through it in an edited form once, so I'm not really missing out a whole lot. I just don't have the physical one in hand.
It's on the way. It's coming. It'll be there.
We got more snow in Tennessee than we've got in a long time. I'll go over that here when it gets to my part. But yeah, there's a reason it ain't arrived.
Okay.
But go ahead, Cynthia.
Okay. So that's it. I want to keep it our time for all of us. I feel like this book is such a labor of love. You guys are in it. Everybody in the community is in it. I've done my best to mention all the authors, all the websites, all the YouTube channels, all the history, because I've known people in this, including Art Bell, who've been talking about this for decades, and they deserve credit. And a lot of them haven't had sort of that moment. Some people are authors that you've never heard of. And so I do my best to bring all of that forward, as well as the science of it, the history of it, theories of it, my personal experiences, and jam it all into 300 pages with indexes about how it cross-references the language that we use in the community to the language within science, and then some philosophical terms, and bringing together ideas from folks who have looked at the phenomenon, called it different things, and how does that mesh together. So I think it's fascinating, but I've lost all objectivity in this matter. So I hope that everybody enjoys it.
Well, I know I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait for it to come out. And thank you so much for your update on Reality Shifters. When does that drop?
The newsletter, it comes out once a month. So this is that 20-page thing that it's there right now. All of my newsletters are posted online. Very old school. And then I also send them out via email once a month. And then this book, this will come out this year. I don't have no date yet because it's got too much changing, but it'll be this year.
Yeah, I was actually referencing the newsletter, but yeah, the book too. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and that is Cynthia Sue Larson. Next up, we have, you know him as the quantum businessman, Mr. Christopher Anatra. I'm trying to get the pronunciation right now. Anatra, is that it?
Anatra, yes, you got it.
Anatra, perfect.
Yeah, so I've been doing some traveling. Finally returned about a week or so ago. I'm about to do some more traveling. So I have a lot of going on in the travel realm, and then beginning in February forward, my traveling calms down. So for those of you that watch my channel, The Quantum Businessman, I posted a video called Prison Break. And it's interesting because some people have been commenting, they've been getting that thought in their mind too, about like the term of a prison break and what that actually means. And I go into all these different things about the reality, how it works, and so forth. And is it possible that we're going into a new time where we're actually able to break out of this? I'll call it a prison. You know, Earth's been called many things: a school, a playground, DNA farm, etc. Some people have called it a prison because of the reincarnation cycle and how we're like lifetime after lifetime, almost like a prison sentence. And I use the Star Wars series called Andor. I use that as the soft disclosure, the main piece of soft disclosure in that, and I also get into all different things. And I talk light language in it, or star language, and etc. So, you know, watch that. I could say more about it, but I'll let you watch it. And I also talk about some really interesting things about like how the reality may work and how it may work like almost like a video game, where as players in the game, what we see is rendered only when we need it. So when a player sees something, then that comes into our view, so to speak. Like if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? Well, it does if there's a player to observe it in some way. Otherwise, the system calculates that it made the sound. And then when you go into the forest, you see the fallen tree. And then you can liken that to other things as well. Like, this will sound weird, but if you have a refrigerator and it's full of food and you close the door, does the food in the refrigerator still exist? I mean, think about it. If you didn't go back there for a month and opened it, it'd probably be all moldy and rotten, because the system is calculating exactly what would happen to that food. It doesn't need to be rendered because it's not there. So when you get into an elevator, you go into an elevator and the doors close and you feel and then it opens up and you're on another floor. You know, what's like literally happening? Are you actually moving in an elevator?
Or is a sound effect playing?
Yeah, or however the reality, like, you know, gives us the feelings and the impulses and the different senses that we have. We pick up on these different things. So what I try to do is I try to get people to start thinking about if this is possible. When you start to change your mindset to that, then like your whole view of the way the reality starts to change. So watch that video if you haven't. You know, if you have any comments or questions, leave a comment or a question below. The other thing too, so when I got back from my travels, of course, I always notice these Mandela effects. And I'll just say one real quick. And one was outside my bathroom window, I had my friend Sean Bond, he bought a kayak and he didn't have a place to store it. So he was storing it in my backyard on this deck that I have that I always looked at for the last 3 years. And it was a mustard yellow kayak with like orange in the seating area. And I've been looking at that same ugly kayak for 3 years. When I came back, the kayak was bright blue. And so I said to Sean, I'm like, Sean, what color is your kayak? And he's like, blue. I'm like, oh, really? Like, I've been looking at that thing for 3 years and it's like mustard yellow, but now it's blue. So, you know, what does that mean? So for myself, that's a personal Mandela effect, right? So then I always try to tune in. Is there a meaning to that? So blue, throat chakra, truth, the space shuttle astronaut uniforms, to me, like they were always orange. Every mission was always orange. Now a lot of the missions, they're blue, including the Challenger astronaut mission, which like blew my mind. Blue, throat chakra, speaking your truth. Then I'm like, okay, why a kayak? K-A-Y-A-K. Kayak's one of those words where forwards and backwards, you can spell it the same way. So to me, forwards and backwards, no matter how you look at it, we're going to see the truth. So even though things have been hidden from us, the global narrative tries to make us like believe blah, 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 or whatever it is. Like, I feel we're heading into that age of truth where no matter how you look at it, forwards or backwards, like the word kayak, the truth is going to be revealed. So I just want to mention some of those. There's more. I saw a hoverbird when I was in France. People have like the videos of like a bird just like locking up in flight. So I'm standing on these train track stations, and across in the field there's like this bird, and Sean's like, look at that bird, it's just like frozen. And I'm like, oh my God, it's one of those hoverbirds. I'm like, take a picture, take a video real quick. And by the time he got his phone out, then the bird flew away, of course. But yeah, all kinds of like weird anomalies, temporal distortions. That always happens when I go on these types of trips. So that's enough for me. There could be a whole show me talking about crazy things that happen. But yeah, so that's an update for the quantum businessman.
Nice.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. What an update indeed. And Shane Robinson, unbiased and on the fence. How's your month been, my friend?
Oh, it has been pretty challenging. A lot of regular 3D life stuff going on or whatever. But I got to tell you, I got my book too from Cynthia, and she actually signed it on her birthday. So I want to say happy birthday to her. Late, it's been 6 days, but her birthday was January 11th, and it meant so much to me that she actually signed this book actually on her birthday, and it made me feel like it was my birthday. I told her, like, so I'm going to cherish this like I do all of her books forever. Not much going on as far as anything on the channel. I did the trip I talked about, going to Arizona. We did have that trip, and I did post the video for that. That was a lot of fun, just hanging out with people and bringing in the new year. And but after that, I had a flu and issues at the house, just maintenance things going on and stuff like that. So I've been pretty busy with stuff like that. But other than that, I think there's really no way to move but upward from here. So that's kind of how I look at it. Like, get that stuff out of the way and push on. So yeah. If you need more information from me though, uotf.net. You can get on there and contact me through all of my social media. Links are there, or go to the contact page to find out information on setting up a session with me if you like.
And of course, all links are being dropped in the chat over here. So if you're in the YouTube chat and you want to hit Shane's, he's right there. Quantum Businessman up a little, Reality Shifters up just a little bit more. And last but not least, it is my turn. So next on the slide deck, we have, I'm kidding.
Jerry, Happy New Year. How are things going with you, my man?
I appreciate it, Shane. They're going wonderful. I would like to also extend a happy birthday to Cynthia. My apologies that I missed that.
And actually, since the last show, Chris had one too. He had one like 2 weeks before. Cynthia.
And happy birthday, Chris.
And where were you on your birthday?
Bunch of birthdays at the end of the year.
Which country was that?
I was in France.
Nice.
In the Normandy section of France, which is on their west coast. So you can't look across, but if you could look across, you would see England. So
over there, they pronounce your name correctly? Anatra?
Anatra.
No, I don't even think they tried. I did go to Italy as well. I went to Venice. So I spent time in France and then spent time in Venice. So yeah.
That's awesome.
So I was in both countries.
That's amazing. Yeah. So Rippin' Common Sense Radio, we've been doing quite a few shows over there. Every Wednesday and Thursday night, of course, still. We're doing the Chupacabra tonight and next week. I got a 2-part special with an expert coming on, believe it or not.
Wow.
And then Thursday night, we do political talk radio. So if you're into the political side, join us on Thursday night on Rippin' Common Sense Radio Network. Links will be in the chat room here in just a moment. And if you're into the paranormal, join me on Wednesday. Also, we've got more snow here in Tennessee in one day, ladies and gentlemen, than we get in a whole season. Almost twice as much snow fell in one day in Tennessee than Tennessee gets in a whole season. Needless to say, we're a little bit snowed in down here.
Which explains the mail
Tennessee lost its
situation.
mind.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I haven't been able to receive my copy of the book yet, which I am very much looking forward to, Cynthia. I cannot wait to get a hands on that copy.
Chance to catch any last errors and corrections before it goes out. But I have a question about the Chupacabra. Is that an interdimensional animal, do you think? Is it possible that like the Bigfoot?
Possibilities there, I would give it a possibility, yes. I can't rule out anything at this point.
You can ask your expert about it.
Definitely will. I know I had an experience with one myself. I actually seen a Chupacabra one time on my own property, as well as the killing, the whole 9 yards. So the day before, I'll go ahead and tell the story real quick. The day before, my neighbor had come home. Now, my neighbor was a high school kid. He went to another county, so he drove himself to school and back. He was a senior. Big wrestling guy. I'm talking about macho man, football guy, big boy. He comes home one night, comes over to my house, play video games, goes home, comes back a couple minutes later, bawling his eyes out. Now, I'm talking about a manly man. They don't bawl. They don't cry like that. They had a bunch of geese, ducks, multiple animals. All of them had been killed. All of them killed. We went to investigate personally. The dog had broken its chain. Of course, the dog got the blame. However, this was not a dog killing by any means whatsoever. The only time the dog actually broke his chain was if there was an actual threat. So, yeah, I don't think the dog was responsible. The animals had all been killed by the neck, not a drop of blood to be found around or in them, which is before I had heard of a Chupacabra or anything of the such. So it didn't make a lot of sense. Bodies strewn everywhere, bloodless, not a drop of blood on the ground anywhere. There was a pond. And in wet area around the pond, there was a footprint. It had 3 toes and claws. Now, I was young. I didn't realize how odd that was at the time until I went to continue to find out what this creature was. And upon looking in a numerous variety of tracking books, I find out that is abnormal. That is not a regular creature. So this time passes. A couple years later, I'm watching a TV show called Paranormal Borderline with Jonathan Frakes. He's talking about a creature from Puerto Rico and the Mexico area that kills animals by the neck and drinks his blood. I'm thinking, wow, this sounds really familiar. And then it showed the footprint and I lost it. I didn't even know what to do at that point. Shivers up and down, wide open jaw, like, oh my God, that's what I seen. You're telling me I saw a mythical creature? What? My father and I, the next day after this had happened, had seen this creature along the edge line of our fence. We also had a pond which it shot into. This is what made sense to me, the bodies of water being in both locations.
What did it look like? You saw it. What did it look like?
Nothing like you've seen on TV, I promise you that. It was very low to the ground, almost like a skunk. It didn't have the colorings of a skunk, but as far as height off the ground goes, jet black, about length of a small cat, medium cat. It wasn't a cat. I know what a cat looks like. Understand? I'm using these animals as reference points for people to understand. But about that height, about that length, jet black, and then when it heard us, it shot into the pond just as quickly as it could. So I mean, it was gone in a matter of seconds. It was a good distance away. It's not like I was standing right up on the thing. You know what I mean? I couldn't see its eyes, nothing like that. It didn't have red glowing eyes staring at, nothing abnormal to that degree that I was able to see. Upon telling my mother about this, me and my sister and my father had all seen. My mother thought we were nuts until the next night she was heading out to work and seen the same creature near our porch. It was never spotted again in our area. So I don't know what it was, but I know that it fit the description that I would later find out was a Chupacabra.
This is the 1980s?
This is the 1990s.
Okay, Tennessee.
Yes, ma'am. So we've also known that armadillos that were in Texas for the longest time have also made their way into Tennessee. So it's not odd for creatures to make their way into new territories slowly over time. That's actually a pretty normal thing.
Why exactly did we decide to do our next conference in Tennessee?
That's a good question, my friend. Because it's not Texas.
Ooh, don't tick off the Texans, man. There's a lot of them in there.
Well, they come out of Mexico into Texas, so I must assume it's got a higher population down there.
Right. That's true. Okay. Well, I'll leave that one alone. That can go all sorts of directions.
Right. But yeah, seriously, I did see something that fit that description. So
That's wild.
yeah, it's something I'll never forget.
It kind of have you guys seen the footage recently released? They're calling it a jellyfish UFO.
I haven't seen the footage, but I've heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess one person was saying like he had heard farmers talking about something similar that looked similar. Though for those who don't know, the footage it looks like an Iron Man type. I don't know. It doesn't look like what you would think of as a jellyfish. It looks like some kind of robot flying, hovering right across the land, and they're seeing it on a heat signature sort of camera. It's a military weapon system that's following it, and it won't track it. They have to like manually follow it. And I heard they radioed ahead to the people on the ground, and they weren't seeing it with their night vision or with their regular eyes. So this thing was completely invisible. But someone had mentioned perhaps that's why we see the animal or cattle mutilation. So it kind of reminded me of when you were talking about some of the strange with the Chupacabra or whatever, the
Right.
bloodless thing. But there's been weird things like that with the cattle, and they were saying if that thing was completely invisible to the naked eye, it might actually look like a cow is floating up. If it, you know what I mean? If the
Now
device
that's interesting. Right.
So I started kind of putting all that together. How if that is the same thing that the farmers report seeing. It's just, I guess this footage that's going around was actually recorded in 2005, but it was just recently released. It's supposed to be military footage of a
Interesting.
jellyfish.
Speaking of jellyfish, we do have some incredible sponsors for this episode.
Right on.
We can go ahead and pull that back up. Like the painted bat. This looks like a Halloween decoration. There's no way this is a real creature. So the painted bat, aka the woolly bat or butterfly bat, found throughout parts of Asia. Orange-bodied flying masterpiece with groovy black markings on its wings. Known for its agile flight and echolocation abilities, emitting high-pitched sound waves to map out its surroundings, locate its prey in the dark. So, like most bats, it uses echolocation. But what do you think, Cynthia? Looks pretty new to me.
Yeah, I haven't seen it before. I like the name butterfly bat. That seems like something I would have heard about. So it's very new, although it's from Asia. So you could say, well, it's not part of America, so that's why I wouldn't have heard about it. But it's gorgeous. It's I think it seems like symbolic. To me, the gold colors stand out. I don't know why they call it a butterfly, but it seems to show that
it looks
there's
like the monarch butterfly coloring.
Yeah, that could be. And I didn't even think of that, but it's got that kind of a feeling with the gold, that regal look, that gold and that white color. Beautiful footage.
Oh, yes. I forgot we have a video of this.
Nice.
So
it looks
just to
even
show
better in
this-
the video.
Right. Just to show this is a real creature. This
Look at
is
the
an
color
AI
there.
creation of some type.
So it's got like a pink head. That's pink. And it looks almost purple now. It's
Almost, right? Cute little thing. Never thought I'd say that about a bat.
Yeah, this is the prettiest looking bat I've ever seen. Now I see why they would call it a butterfly bat with the video.
I could see that.
That's different.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably what you would think walking up on. Is that a butterfly?
Uh-huh.
Right. That's what I would think.
Yeah.
I sure wouldn't
You
think
wouldn't think
bat
of
if I
bat.
walked up on that.
Right.
That's beautiful.
Especially with that, like the little thin branch it's on, right?
Right. Oh, that's so beautiful. I love it. Well,
me-
this
So we've got
picture
the-
doesn't. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say that to me, it reminds me of like one of the first manned animals people talked about was the flying fox, right?
Mhm.
Those
Right.
bats that that were big and it looks like a dog with wings, so to speak. So
From the Maldives, I might add, which was also the string of islands on my map that weren't there when I created my maps.
that's interesting.
So I think we got the islands along with the 6-foot wingspan bats there as well.
Yeah, then there was the hammer-headed bat, which is like another one that looks like a dragon almost. Just the face is very unique. So
We
yeah,
had that 12-foot bat or whatever it was.
You say 12-foot bat?
Remember that great big bat, or was that a bird? What was that? Remember
That thing,
creature?
it was a bat. It was huge.
Yeah.
It was maybe 5 feet long. It was almost as big as a person.
Yeah.
Is that the flying fox?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah.
I
Was
think
it?
I
I
think
don't
we're
know.
talking
We had
about
one
the
on
same.
here a couple months ago from another country that was just huge.
Yeah, it was like, in fact, wasn't it hanging above a
Yes.
motorcycle on the picture?
Exactly.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm not completely crazy. Well, that's yet to be determined, but still.
Well, I like this butterfly bat because it looks like it's a friendlier, happier kind of an animal. It doesn't look even the picture doesn't look as good as the video. The video looks really welcoming, and it's suggestive of transformation. You know, butterflies come out of chrysalis. I don't think a bat does, but it gives that impression of moving through a transformational phase. So there seems like there's some sort of a message in this animal that I find quite appealing. That's how it strikes me anyway.
Yeah, and the fact that it uses echolocation abilities, I guess that's pretty much, it's known
Standard.
for the agile flight, but the echolocation is always interesting to me, the way they can send out the sound and sort of see with sound, like we do with our sonar or whatever.
Did we do a show on the golden bat of Bolivia?
Yes.
Yeah, it's, to me, like that's another bat. Like bats keep Batman, you know.
Yes.
Brooke just said that in the chat. She said it's golden. That's true. It's golden. So.
Yeah,
You beat me to it. I was just about to point that out too.
Yeah, there's actually, if you look it up, there's actually the golden bat of Bolivia. That's like gold. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I want to point out real quick, we had a question about the use of the sponsors. Bob Logic says, I do not understand why these animals are sponsors. Is there some organization who gives money to show these animals on the IMEC? No. Absolutely not. I can promise you no, that is not the case. No, that's the whole joke behind it is there is no money given, nothing. These are Mandanimals. We're just a funny way to present the Mandanimals as sponsors of the show. So each month people will send us or we'll find Mandanimals along the way, and that's what we'll use as the sponsors for the show. There's no money. There's no nothing like that. Nobody's affording them. Nobody's giving us money to put them up. There's no company behind it. Nothing.
Or maybe in the unseen, something's going on, because I think these animals like the attention.
Yeah, the bat energetically brought to you by.
Yeah, energetically sponsored by
Butterfly
Right.
Bat.
Yeah, maybe we should change that.
But I do thank you for the question, Bob. That is a valid question.
We've got another sponsor this month, right? We've got one more.
Yes, we do actually. And go ahead with the next sponsor. The next sponsor. So this one, I don't know what to think about it. So we got Dolphin thumbs, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, you heard that right. Dolphin thumbs. Next thing you know, they're going to be texting. Watch out for your texting dolphins. I've heard they can be scammers. Over the summer, researchers spotted a dolphin off the coast of Greece, which had developed strange hooked thumbs carved off of its flippers. It was the very first time we saw this surprising flipper morphology in 30 years of surveys in the open sea, and also in studies while monitoring all the stranded dolphins along the coast of Greece for 30 years, one of the scientists told Live Science. So, couple things here. It could either be an upgrade of some type, maybe an evolution, a bad gene. What do you think, Cynthia?
Well, to me, it looks like there's some kind of, I mean, originally they say that dolphins developed these, I don't know which way it went, but they had the ability to walk on land. Their ancestors did. And so they came onto land and then they went back into the ocean, apparently. So I've heard this before. What's strange in this case is that the thumb is not usually so pronounced that you can actually see it, and it looks almost like it's not quite the opposable thumb that we need to operate our handheld devices like cell phones and so forth. But it seems suggestive of that kind of a development. And what comes to mind when I see animals who are seemingly coming more into like human-like skills, it reminds me of footage I've seen. I saw something where a child was showing like an iPad with a movie on it, and I think it was a gorilla. The gorilla kept tapping on the glass with a finger, meaning advance to the next movie. It's kind of like it's on TikTok or something, like thump, 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 switch, thump, thump, switch. And I can't help but thinking, like, what's going on with the thumbs? Is there, not that there's operational effectiveness yet of the technology that humans use, but dolphins certainly do witness human technological advances. They certainly swim with humans. They know about what we're doing on many levels. And I feel like there's some kind of something happening. Like we were talking today about time, like it's bleeding backward, like technology is going backward. I wouldn't be that surprised if we start seeing dolphins using their thumbs, which sounds crazy. Like that would be really wild to see them grabbing something and picking it up. But the way this is happening, I didn't track to follow the evolutionary history as it currently stands for this animal, because the way these Mandela effects work, if we did do that, then we'd see, well, clearly, they've been this way for a long time. But I tend to suspect something's changing. Like if we keep an eye on the species the way we do with the dodo bird, for example, or the Tasmanian tiger, I think we're going to see some interesting things here. So this is one to keep our eyes on.
And Eva points out, hold on real quick, Chris. Eva points out a lot that we see things come in as a singularity piece like this, just, oh, a brand new dolphin has been discovered with this. And in a month or two, we'll find that, oh, they found a whole bunch of them in the 60s and they've always been around. And the stories tends to morph on as time goes on in a strange way. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah. So, okay. A dolphin is a mammal, right? But a couple of episodes ago, we talked about the walking perch, the perch that like walk on land, the fish.
Right.
They go into trees and they can live in the trees for like a week or something. So we definitely see some weird things going on in the animal kingdom. And when it comes to dolphins, I've got my eye on you because no, I've been watching dolphins because to me, like in my old timeline, there was just the gray Fraser dolphin. Like there weren't all varieties. So a while ago, I created a video that included all these different new species of dolphins that I never heard about. And back then, I remember there were a total of 23 species of dolphins. Now, if you look it up, there are now 40 species of dolphins. So we like almost doubled from what I remember like a couple of years ago when I did my research. Because I remember the number 23, and now there's like 40. And one of my favorites is the Rizzo dolphin, or the Rizzo's dolphin. And I asked Heather if she had a picture of one just to bring it up, because this dolphin. Oh, by the way, Heather, I sent it to your email. This dolphin is really interesting because it has like a purple color to it. They're great.
Look at that.
And what I see on it is light language. The global narrative will tell us they got messed up in fishing nets, and these Rizzo dolphins, blah, 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 they get scratched or they fight with other Rizzo dolphins. But when I see that, I see communication, and having that grayish purple color reminds me of like the crown chakra, for example. So this is one of my favorite dolphins, but there's so many dolphins. And for a lot of us, we were all surprised about pink dolphins, right? Living in the Amazon, and there's pink dolphins are. Think off the Sea of Japan someplace. So there's a lot going on with dolphins, and it just seems like there's more and more species, varieties, just very unique things that like you would think you would have known about that. You would think you would have heard of pink dolphins, and yeah, they've always been, and this Rizzo purplish gray one has always existed as well. So I think when you even look at a picture like this, you're getting a download, almost like when you look at a crop circle, for example. It might be, oh, that's just like a unique pattern, but you're actually interpreting as something else. You're getting information from it. So I believe these Rizzo dolphins have messages for us that are actually on their skin that we can observe. So I just wanted to throw that out into the dolphin mix and what's going on in the animal kingdom, that I think we would have known about these things before.
Let's get the a little chime in from the chat. High Vibe Tribe says, looks like a tie-dye dolphin. And Brooke says, violet flame with light codes. I love that.
Mhm. Super cool.
Yeah, I'll just add one more thing about.
Hieroglyphics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like light language, hieroglyphics, the same type of like using like symbols to communicate. And there's also too, there was this place in Hawaii, of course they shut it down, where if a woman was giving birth, she could give birth in the water, and there would be dolphins that would swim around her while she was giving birth. And the concept is that when you're born, you're going through the birth canal, the archons or whoever can insert contracts, things that you didn't agree to before you were being born as you're going through the birth canal. It's like a secret that they use. But when a dolphin circles the woman giving birth, the archons they can't insert these extra contracts, which are usually negative things, to be like, oh, you're gonna have this bad experience and that bad experience. And of course they shut that down, right? So there's all kinds of like amazing, beautiful things that the dolphins can do for us. And I hope at some point in the future that type of thing comes back, or we don't even need that. But dolphins are very special.
Well, Linda has a question for Christopher. Christopher, why are you manifesting so many new dolphin types?
I don't know. Maybe I was a dolphin in another life or from another existence. I don't know, but.
Well, you talked about the Atlantean technology coming back, right? And the Lemurian technology returning. And so obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually saw it rising out of the depths of the ocean. Maybe you'll see it on your travels.
Maybe the dolphins will start bringing Chris different pieces of tech from Atlantis.
It could happen. Islands are changing a lot. We're seeing a lot of islands, like you mentioned, Shane.
Yeah. So just to kind of like to add to that too. So I'm like right after this show in about 20 or 30 minutes, I'm actually leaving for the airport, and I'm going on this trip to French Polynesia, which includes like that island chain of Tahiti and Bora Bora and blah, blah, blah. It was a trip that was planned a few years ago, but because of COVID, it kept on getting canceled. And finally it's happening. And I'm going with this group with Mas Sajadi. So if anyone has watched my channel and the podcast that I did a couple of podcasts with him. So going down with a group of people, but those French Polynesian islands are as far south of the equator as Hawaii is north of the equator. So there is this parallel that reminds people of Lemuria. And so perhaps some of those French Polynesian islands could be related to that. I feel like there's Atlantis vibes, and there's a lot of dolphins in the area. So yeah, you never know what could happen, but yeah, just throwing that out there too. So yeah.
Well, we all do wish you safe travel, sir. I know I speak for ourselves in the chat when I say I hope you have a very safe and wonderful trip.
Thank you.
And speaking of questions, let's go ahead and jump to the mailbag. While we're doing this, ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions, make sure you go ahead and get them into the chat, as we have a questions section coming up shortly. We will cover the questions you have asked. So far, we've got none. So if you have any questions for us, do go ahead and drop them in the chat, like the person that sent us a mailbag question this month. And the question is, why is there so much residue? I am seeing it everywhere. Thanks for being you. Blessings, Belinda Anders. Thank you, Belinda, for that mailbag request. I believe that was brought in by email this month. So this is a phenomenal question, I think, because this is a question that we have asked ourselves for a number of years in researching this. I'm not sure how good answer I have, so I'm going to pass it along. Cynthia, why is there so much residue?
Well, some people would say there's not enough. So, I mean, it's one of these matters of your opinion. Like some people feel like, where is the residue? Like people who are writing about these things like myself, we're looking for, come on, there's got to be more people that remember it the way we do. Tinkerbell with the little wand at the opening of the Disney thing, or mirror, mirror on the wall. Last month we had Walt Disney out of his own mouth saying, mirror, mirror on the wall. That's the kind of residue we love. Where is it? Where's more of it? But here we've got the flip question. Why is there so much? I love the question. This is someone who says the glass is half full. Wonderful. Love it, love it, love it. I think it really helps. Residue is one of those amazing things that gives us the idea that there's not just myself, but others as well who definitely remember these things. Walt Disney remembers mirror, mirror on the wall. He says it which if you haven't seen last month's episode, please tune in our open tables. I think that was one of our key points of all time to find that gem. Thank you for the person that sent that in. But these are the kind of things, when we see that kind of residue, it reminds us that we're not crazy, that things really were different, contrary to all of the other historical so-called evidence. So I think we need that much. We need it because humanity apparently needs to know the Mandela effect is real. I know that we get to that place and we say, okay, not everyone's going to see it. Maybe so. But the more of us that do, the better for all of us. I think that's pretty much for sure. And so that's why I would say we see so much of it. But I'd love to hear you guys' opinion.
Thank you, Cynthia. Chris, why do we see so much residue?
You know, I like what Cynthia said. And then just to add to that too, because you know, the way I see things, I see things in timelines. So, and then, you know, timelines become a very popular thing because all the modern movies are talking about timelines and the multiverse and all those type of concepts. But it seems like we're in this phase of existence where these timelines are like bleeding over into each other and they're merging, and there's all this activity going on. So something is one way, and then you get another timeline that merges into it or has a bleed over into it, and then you see the residue. And that happens a lot with, it happens with so many different things, even costumes, right? Costumes that you would buy that you remember people, you know, the Monopoly Man always had a monocle, and you buy the Monopoly Man costume and it comes with a monocle. Like, what's up? Like what's up with that? Why would
Simmons
that
headband?
Yeah. Or yeah. So yeah. So those types of concepts. So I see it as like a bleed over, bleeding, the timelines like bleeding into each other. And then as a result, you see the residue. And if that theory is true, there should be even more residue that happens to make things even more confusing for people to try to figure out what's going on, because they'll see the residue within the original is not what it was. So, or what they remember, I should say.
Right. So that's an interesting answer there, Chris. Most definitely appreciate the opinion and answer. Shane, why is there so much residue?
Well, it's 2:22 here in Central Time, so thumbs up.
Nice. Thumbs up for the trip too. Same here.
So for me, I think residue is created by human consciousness. That's been like sort of the best way I found that residue is created. It's like, say you learn a song and it's just you've performed this song and then the lyrics get Mandela affected. You're not reading the lyrics, so you're not going to change and sing it the new way. Unless you print out the lyrics, you might sort of overwrite that old memory or whatever. But if you just perform it, you're probably going to tend to perform it how you remembered it before it was changed, therefore creating, you know, the residue. So I think with anything, it's something that we remember and we're going off of memory. That's why people can point to, oh, it's a false memory, because like, no, it doesn't match my reality. You don't understand, because I remembered it being this certain way. So I see it as like a soup of consciousness, in that the more people remembered something or were more involved, the more they just know how it was rather than they're having to read the lyrics. So I think it really depends on the specific Mandela effect and how popular it was and how many times people, you know, maybe retold a joke or rebranded something in a new moment that sort of kept that old way alive. Like with Tommy Boy saying, "Luke, I am your father," you know, he kind of like brought it back to our memory. People would have noticed it then, right? People would have been like, why did he say it that way when it's not really? So that's sort of creating that residue then, because when Tommy Boy came out, people would have been calling him out for messing up the lyric or, you know, the words of the movie at that time. But it wasn't until later that you're like, no, he just messed it up. You're like, no, he used to match. So it really is that double-edged sword with residue, because for some other people, they'll just say, well, that's why it's messed up. You know what I mean?
Can I just add to that?
Great
real quick?
answer, Shane. Go ahead, Chris.
I just want to add to what Shane said about like Luke, I'm your father. Mark Hamill, whose name is now, his last name has changed. It has 2 L's. I remember 1 L.
Right.
But he was on Saturday Night Live in I think the late 80s. And he did a skit where he said, "Luke, I'm your father." So and I had that on one of my videos. So here's the actual actor that said that, you know, and he remembers it that way, at least in that particular time period, he remembers it that way. So yeah, when you have the original person saying it, and there's even James Earl Jones
Yeah, he's the original guy. That's the original.
And he remembered it that way as well.
He definitely did.
And
Yes, we
numerous
have the
interviews,
original.
yes.
Yeah. So that's a big one. Yeah. So I just wanted to interject that one.
So as far as residue goes, I take a bit of a different look on that. Of course, as a theorist, to me, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't. So you don't have residue in all categories. It's normally parody or costume or something that you've drawn out yourself, right? If you put your consciousness, if you've drawn it, it tends not to change. If it's a parody, a joke of some type, it tends not to change. And if it's a costume, it tends not to change. Now, why only those three? There's so much about residue that just doesn't make sense. And I really think it's another valid part of the effect. I think it has more to do with a working of the effect and how it operates more so than just, hey, by the way, here's proof that it really happened. Not to say that it doesn't act wonderfully in that aspect as going, hey guys, look, I've got proof of what I remember. I love that. I've made my best video on YouTube, as a matter of fact, is my Jiffy residue video. So I think it's more of an MO of the Mandela effect. I don't think it's accidental. I don't think it's left behind or missed on accident. I think it's, for whatever reason, part of the effect. I don't know why. Maybe it's accidentally left. Maybe it's like, if we consider simulation, if you type in, take out everything with C3PO and it's spelled out instead of like that, it's going to miss that piece. We've seen that on a certain card where it's spelled out CEETHREE, all the words spelled out. That still exists in the regular way with him gold and all that. So residue is a weird one for me. Why so much residue? I think it has more to do with figuring out what the Mandela effect is and how it operates in general. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, I'll just add one more thing to that, like just like another piece to the puzzle. Sometimes it's people correcting things. So like in my business, a lot of people remember Haas avocados, HAAS. So they would go into their software and be like, somebody misspelled it as Haas. So click, 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 click. They would correct it. So because they would remember it that way. So they were like, oh, somebody typed it in wrong. Because I have people will send me stuff about like, oh, Haas avocados are the way we remember it. Because they'll see a sign or something or a coupon. And it's because the person remembers it that way. So that's how they typed it in. So there's that other angle to it as well that should at least be considered as a possibility.
And I think you're onto something with the artistic rendition, Shane, because even though you're speaking music, we've seen it in art and we've seen it in a number of other things. If, for instance, I've seen people trace shorelines directly and they'll change with the tracing. But if you trace them incorrectly, they don't change.
Right. I can also see it survived in certain places. And I knew this as like someone that creates logos, or you have to recreate a logo. I've like, you may be come across Revlon, and instead of like going and getting the perfect logo because it's just block letters and there's nothing special about it, you'll just grab a similar font, and then the logo changes and the font no longer matches. So it doesn't get Mandela affected because it only looked like it was a counterfeit of the original.
Right.
You see what I mean? So you didn't copy and paste it, so it doesn't get changed. And I think Bella's Boys was talking about the first residue I ever saw was Berenstain Bears in the old TV guide. Now, I think this is where also human consciousness comes into place. If you're copying, if you're highlighting, copying, and pasting, and something gets changed, of course it's going to change. But if you have enough confidence in your memory of how to spell Berenstain Bears or any of these things, and you just type out Febreze because you know you're certain of how it's spelled, then it's not going to change because you didn't copy and paste it. You relied on your memory at the time, and it just happened to be correct, and it's no longer correct in the new reality. So it's residue, So.
Yeah.
And thank you again, Belinda, for an amazing question for the conversation.
Yeah,
absolutely. Question. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have once again a reminder, the Golden Mandies, folks, the Golden Mandies of last year, 2023, who offered the most to the community, who put, I'm trying to think of the right words here. I don't want to say this the wrong way. Who's done the most work to forward the conversation of the Mandela effect this year.
Mhm.
Again, IMEC disincluded, us four on IMEC disincluded. Our nominees are Eva Nye of Once Upon a
Mhm.
Timeline, John Kerwin of the YouTube channel Wake Up or Else, Roger Marsh, the author of Truth Bubbles, I remembered it this time, Alicia Thompson, Third Eye Travel Agency, and Brian Stavely, Dose of Reality. You can go over to our YouTube channel in the community section. We have a poll running, ladies and gentlemen. Please, one vote per person. We would appreciate that. And go ahead and vote for your favorite nominee for the Golden Mandy Award. And we will be giving that out pretty soon.
And let people
Cynthia,
know
go ahead.
too. Yeah, be sure to share this news, share the link if you any place that seems appropriate, so people know that we are voting. And if you're in communities where this is something that would be of interest, feel free to mention it, because we're not everywhere. But we'd like everybody to know that they're involved, that they're all part of what we're doing here. We'd like to expand the
Absolutely.
community. Yes.
Absolutely. This is all community run, guys. All we're doing is presenting. I know I made a joke about judging earlier. We aren't even judging. You guys are.
Yeah.
All we do is present this. We came up with it and we present it. You guys decide who is the nominees. You guys decide who the winners are, and then we give it out. That's how it is. So it's all community based. It's all up to you guys. Well, you know what else is community based? Patreon. Next slide, please. We have a large group of Patreon sponsors that have been sponsoring us for quite a while now. We very, very much appreciate our Patreon sponsors. If you are a Patreon, then you know that there are special green room videos that only you have access to. That's right. They are the green room shows we do before this episode. This month we have been discussing the Miami incident. So go ahead and check that out if you're a Patreon member. And if not, you might want to consider becoming a Patreon member like these fine folks. Our gold level have been with us for over a year. Jason Ram, Jody, Colleen Learley, Stephanie Clay, James, J.D. Peterson, Paul Ellis. Very special shout out to Bo Kim. We very, very, very much appreciate you, Bo, our highest contributor in 2023. Allison Eastman and Gail Brown, that's our Patreon gold level. Silver level, been with us over 6 months on Patreon. Teresa Richards, Belinda Anders, who sent us in our special mailbag tonight, Lori Glasner, and A. Thompson. And then our bronze level, our newcomers, Elaine Osborne, Laura Bortman, JoJo Williams, Amy Lasik, Vit Hartman, Lisa Henderson, Laura Munson, Kathleen Wright, William, Sylvia Bondurant, and Gaynor, and Lena Harlia. We appreciate all of you guys so very much. All of your support is what helps us do what we do, what allows us to do what we do, to put on conferences, to do events. Everything we do is supported and funded pretty well solely by you guys. IMEC Patreon membership, a special thank you to our current and new Patreon sponsors, of course. And if you want to become a sponsor, merely click the QR code down there with your phone. Go ahead and scan that QR code. It should take you right over to our Patreon, and you can become a sponsor instantly and immediately. We very much appreciate it. Once again, you do get exclusive content every month without fail, and the only ones to see the green room conversations. Anybody like to add anything to this?
I would just like to add, is it possible that we could announce the Golden Mandy winner on our next show, which is the end of February? Is it we doing a February 29th show, or is it 28th?
It's the 28th.
I
Yeah.
wanted to go for 29th, but we went with the 28th.
Yeah. So do
It's leap
you
year.
guys think that we could use that show to announce the winner?
I'd like to do that. That sounds good.
That's the plan.
Okay.
That's the big show.
All right,
February
guys, you have
28th.
1 month. You heard it here first. 1 month. Get over there and get your votes in, because a couple days prior, we're going to have to cut it so that we can get a hold of the winner and invite them onto the show with us. So go ahead and get your votes in as quickly and as soon as possible. And as Chris said, our next show, mark your calendars, folks. Mark your calendars. Our next show is Wednesday, February 28th, 2024. I know I am excited about that, and I know the rest of the team is. I cannot wait to see what our V-Day show has to offer. And last but not least, Q&A. And folks, I didn't see any questions come up. So, do you just click on the person to vote? It doesn't seem to do much. So, yes, just click on the person's name to vote on YouTube, and that's it. It's just that simple. Sorry, there's not a lot of bells and whistles offered by YouTube, but just, cast your vote. And I can tell you, like Cynthia said earlier, there is a ton of votes that have been cast already.
Over 100, yeah.
Over 100, which is pretty cool for a short time that's been up. So, ladies and gentlemen, get over there. Make sure you cast your vote for the Golden Mandy. Make sure you mark your calendars, February 28th, 2024. We will be back with another episode of Open Tables. Anything to add before we close this episode out, folks?
No, just keep leaving comments. We love the comments on these videos, and we can pick up questions for the next show there. So keep them coming in. We love to hear from you. Thanks so much for all you do.
And I want to shout out a very special thank you to all of our audience members out there listening. It's for by and of you guys that we do this. We don't do this to hear our own voices, I assure you. I don't like my voice that much. So we do all of this for you guys. We come together for you guys. We volunteer our time, effort, and money for you guys. All of this is for you, and we don't do it for gratitude or luxury or anything like that. We do it because we love you guys. We do it because we love the Mandela Effect. We do it because we love everything about this. So
together.
Together. Exactly. We do it together. And it's because and thanks to you guys we're able to do this. So make sure you join our Patreon. Make sure you let everybody know. And if you can't financially help us, that's okay. Just let everybody know we're here. Just let them know we exist and we're doing things over here to try to make the world a better place. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Cynthia Sue Larson, by the way, Chris, you be very safe on your travels. Christopher Anatra, the quantum businessman. Shane Robinson, unbiased and on the fence. My tongue is dead for the day, folks. I'm done. Shane Robinson, unbiased and on the fence. On behalf of all three of these amazing people, my name's Jerry Hicks, also known as the DarkWolf. Together, we are the International Mandela Effect Conference. And remember, together we go. Together we
grow.
Love you guys.
Love you.